I once knew a pretty young woman in her early 20s who was single and seemingly possessed all the right traits to get a guy to commit. She wasn't much of a party girl, she actually had a strong, homely, maternal side to her. Along the way, she found herself a handsome, smart man who was from an upper middle class family. Everything seemed to be going well, and she was really happy, at least for the first couple of years. Slowly, as I got to learn more about her, she confided in me that she's starting to question the relationship because the guy wasn't taking the relationship anywhere. So, as many women would do in her situation, she sat him down and she asked him, "Hey, we've been together for a while. I'm just wondering whether you see us being together in the long term. Do you see this relationship going anywhere?" He was a little stumped by the questions and he had to think about it for a moment. And then he replied with, "I can't marry you at the moment. I want you to be more educated. Because if we were to raise kids together, I'd want those kids to be influenced by an educated mother. Oh, I also want you to dress a bit better." So, when she told me this, I wasn't entirely surprised. I said to her, "Look, he clearly doesn't see you as the one and only. He's not going to commit, even when you do these things." I've got 15 long years of experience in coaching women, and in that extended time frame, you do start to see the same patterns over and over again. But she didn't really want to listen to what I had to say. She wanted to hold on to the hope that something good might eventuate with this man. After all, she had already sunk a good chunk of her best years into this guy. So, as you may guess, she went on to take a few short courses, started dressing in the way he asked her to dress, and she made all these changes in her life. Then, a couple more years go by, we stayed friends, and we caught up about her situation once again. This time, she seemed a little less hopeful than her usual self. I could tell from the way she was speaking that her self-esteem was almost at rock bottom. Not only that, but her resentment was at an all-time high. So I asked her, "Did he give you the commitment you wanted?" She looked down and she said no. She told me that she asked him, "Do you see yourself married to me now that I've furthered my education and I dress better?" How he replied might shock you. He said, "Do you know what? You're 99% the perfect woman. There's just 1% left to go." She was frustrated, understandably, and confused and heartbroken. She did everything he asked, but it still wasn't enough. When is enough enough? She even said to me, "Why am I never good enough for anybody?" Now, I don't have to tell you how this story ends because I'm willing to bet that you're smart enough to know that already. This woman is now in her 30s, single, and living by herself, picking up the pieces all alone. Let's be honest here, he was never going to commit long term. I knew because men treat their one and only very differently to how they treat the women they see as their one of many. Hey, it's Renee here from The Feminine Woman, where we teach you how to show up as a high value, high status woman who easily inspires a deep sense of emotional commitment from men. In this video, I'm going to give you the 5 brutal truths I wish I knew about men in my 20s. Let's go. Brutal truth number 1. You are either the one and only or the one of many to a man, never in between. And this is the harsh truth that a lot of women don't know until it's too late, or even then, most women don't know it at all throughout their entire lifespan. I've been saying this for 15 years. When a guy meets you, he will put you in one of 2 baskets. It's either the one of many basket or the one and only basket. And that happens relatively quickly. Which basket you're in determines how much you get from a guy and to an extent how you're treated by him. And this is one reason why so many women find that they end up in a relationship with a guy for 5 or 10 years and they still feel like the guy's not taking the relationship anywhere. And you may also start to feel like you're just not getting as much as your girlfriend Sally over there is getting from her wonderful husband Jim. I know what you're wondering. Is it possible to get out of the one of many basket? The answer is it's hard, but it's not impossible. This is why I made my program Becoming His One and Only. Now that is for single women as well as women who are feeling like the guy is not taking the relationship to the next level. I made that course to give you the 5 feminine secrets to have your chosen man fall in love with you and beg you to be his one and only, even if he's distant or pulling away. So I'll leave a link to that below. So how can you make sure that you have the highest chances of being placed in the one and only basket rather than the one of many? Stop leading with sex or your desire to be desired. Now, this is something that maybe older generations had a little bit better of an intuitive understanding of. But if you are of the younger generations or even of my generation and before, you may struggle with this your entire life because what we have been taught is that sex and sexiness is power. But not only that, there's a very instinctive part of every woman who feels like she wants to be desired and desirable. And so very often when we go out and meet men, we are leading with our desire to be desired. We assume subconsciously that putting our best foot forward means to be desired. That is not your best foot forward. What that is you partaking in the intrasexual competition with other women. It's you saying, hey, I can't stand that feeling of not feeling like I'm as pretty or as sexy as Sally and Jessica over there. So I want to insulate myself from feeling like I'm not enough. I want to compete. I want to feel like I'm the most desired. And when I'm walking down the street with all my girlfriends, are the guys looking at me or are they looking at her? It doesn't matter who the guys are looking at. The guy's attention will go to you, especially so if you are the one of many. Remember, your job as a woman is not to compete with other women to feel the most desired or to be the sexiest. Your job is to appeal to the right man. And this is exactly why it's so important to be the one and only. Now, you need more than just sexual attraction to be placed in the one and only basket. In order to increase your chances of being placed in the one and only basket dramatically, you need to inspire a man to feel emotional attraction with you. So forget about the sexual attraction, you need emotional attraction. That is the key. But how do you do it? Well, the number one way is leading with playfulness. It's this playfulness that a lot of women are just lacking, and especially as they head into their late 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. They completely forget about playfulness as if it's not important anymore. But playfulness is key. So how do you embody playfulness? Well, that's an art in and of itself. But in order to help you develop that skill of playfulness and embody that skill of playfulness, my husband has put together a free class on high value banter. And in that class, you will get some text examples that you can use instantly in online dating or with a guy you already know, and just to get the ball rolling, to get that conversation momentum going and to build emotional attraction. Because let me tell you, playful banter, or as we call it, high value banter, is uber important, especially if you are looking to make a man fall in love and feel emotional attraction for you. If you want to take that free class, I'll put that link below. I've seen thousands and thousands of women make this horrible mistake of competing with other women about who's more desirable and sexier and who can get the most attention from men. You need to stop playing that game. It's kind of like a business owner competing on how many followers they have on social media versus actually serving and appealing to the right customers. Followers are not customers, just as the men who look at you and give you attention are not the ones who are going to necessarily see you as the one and only. Just because a guy gives you attention doesn't mean that's anything valuable. Remember, attention is cheap. It's much more important to appeal to a good man, to the right man, than it is to play the who is sexier game. And I know how counterintuitive that is, because just like any other woman, I want to feel attractive as well. But remember, if your goal is to appeal to the right man faster and to be in the one and only basket, it's not about the attention. It's about appealing to that right man. And if you can show up as the one and only, and if you can embody those 5 feminine secrets inside of my program, then you will have no trouble at all. Leading with playfulness and building emotional attraction also has the added benefit of allowing you to have this deeper purpose in your life. Because remember, it doesn't matter how hot we are, no 30, 40, 50 or 60-year-old can ever compete with a fresh 18-year-old. Okay? You just cannot compete with the youth, with the reproductive value of an 18-year-old, no matter what you do. Does this mean that a 40-year-old has no reproductive value? Absolutely not. Of course, we can still reproduce in our 40s. The fact is, you simply cannot compete with an 18-year-old, and you cannot rely on that desire to be desired, that need for external attention. And this is what a lot of women get stuck in, and so they go and get all these fake treatments because they think that is the real game. But that game has no meaning at the core of it. The real meaning is the emotional attraction, that bond, that intimacy that you can build with a man. That's the only thing that has real value when you're thinking long term. And I know, again, that's counterintuitive because a lot of us, we tend to think short term. We think, if I went out tonight with my friends Jessica and Hannah and all the guys' eyes were on them and not on me, that means I'm less than. No, it doesn't. Remember, men think differently. His eyes could be on them for the wrong reasons. So if you take away nothing from this video today, at least remember this. The goal and the real meaning in your life is to build that emotional attraction so that you can be in the one and only basket That way, you'll be able to waste less time in your younger days and get the maximum value of commitment in relationships with men. Now, does all of this mean that you should never ever be in the one of many basket? No, plenty of women do very well for themselves being in the one of many basket. But I know if you're watching my work and if you've followed my work at all for the last 15 years, then I know and trust that there's a part of you who wants to be loved, a part of you who wants real intimacy. And if that is what you want, then the one and only basket is the only place to be. Okay, brutal truth number 2. Your trust is erotic to men and just as important as sex, if not more important. Now, trust is of course the hardest part for many of us women because we are already so vulnerable inside that if we give over our trust, then that means 100 times or 1,000 times more vulnerability than we already have to experience every single day. Because us as women, we're already so vulnerable, asking us to trust a guy is like taking value from us, right? Especially if you've had a toxic upbringing, bad quality parents, and you don't have any quality attachments in your life. Inside, you may already be thinking, how the hell am I supposed to trust? How do I even do that? Where do I even start, right? You start small and you increase your amount of trust in a man incrementally. And as you increase it incrementally, he starts to become more trustable or less trustworthy in your eyes. Because remember, trust is earned. As women, because we're already so sensitive to every little thing out there in the external world, trusting feels exceptionally hard. And so we tend to err on the side of trying to control things, whether that means controlling our emotions or controlling what happens in our relationship. But this intense need to control is the exact thing that grates on a man because he needs to feel your trust in him in order to see you as his one and only. So when we try to control things, what we do is we actually sabotage that connection with a man. But your trust is so important to a good man because it indicates to him that you are willing to be owned by him. Now I know what you're thinking, I don't want to be owned by a guy. How can I be owned by a guy? What if he hasn't even earned my trust? How is he deserving of that? That's okay. You don't have to show that he owns you on the first date or even in the first month or year necessarily, okay? If a guy hasn't earned your trust and if he hasn't earned your surrender, I don't want you to fake it. There is literally no point in faking it because smart men will see right through that shit. All you need to do to demonstrate trust is to show a willingness to try to trust. Demonstrating that willingness to trust could be something as simple as this. You're sitting in the passenger seat in the car and he's driving along and his driving is making you feel a little unsafe. And you give him instant feedback that says, oh, I don't know about that. I don't feel safe in this car. Or it could be something a little more direct. For example, he makes a specific decision that makes you feel unsafe or uneasy. And you say something like, oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Or something like, I don't know if I can trust this decision. It makes me feel like something really bad could happen. Or it increases my anxiety. Right now, have a feel about how different that feels to you inside compared to the woman who straight away goes to fighting with a guy and trying to butt heads with him and trying to be right. Are those examples I gave going to inspire a different response in a man? What do you think? See, a lot of women just assume men just want sex, but that's not true. A good man wants your trust. He wants your ability to surrender. Now, on my website, thefemininewoman.com, I have almost 300 articles and blogs on these topics. There are so many articles on there if you want to go deeper with this topic and understand why trust and demonstrating your ability to trust and surrender and even be submissive is so important to the right man. So whenever you're ready, go to thefemininewoman.com, have a look at my archives. There's hundreds of articles on there and I guarantee you'll find something there that will help you. Okay, brutal truth number 3. Men secretly love to commit. Now, my husband has made a whole video and article on this, and I'll leave links to those below. But what does this really mean? It means that despite the fact that the surface messaging out there among women is that men are just looking for sex, that's not true. In life, there are deeper levels of truth to everything. And this is one of those key deeper levels of truth that a lot of women miss, and they learn it way too late. Even me, I'm a married woman, and this truth is really starting to sink in at the deepest layers, into the deepest core of me recently. I'm talking in the last 3 to 5 years. This truth has really hit home. And, I spent so much of my life assuming men just want sex. And in fact, at the start of my relationship with my husband, I used to accuse him of only wanting sex. And it's very easy to accuse a guy of that because they want it so often. And it's quite overwhelming for a woman. And so it's natural to assume, that all they want is sex. They don't want anything deeper with us because that's what it looks like. but that's actually untrue. All men secretly love to commit to the right woman. Why? It allows men to experience deeper emotions that they would never experience without the right woman. Honestly, committing to the right woman is fulfillment at the deepest level for a good man. And when you think about it, it makes sense. If us women are designed to desire that commitment at such a deep level, wouldn't it make sense that the universe also created a reciprocal mechanism within men to give you that commitment? Have a think about that for a moment. So yes, men secretly love to commit. They just won't lead with that unless they're a future faking narcissist. Men won't lead with the desire to commit because it doesn't serve them. What serves them is to read the woman and to respond to how the woman shows up. So if you're going out there and you're showing him that he has the opportunity to have sex with you right from the start, of course they're going to take up on that because that is value to them. But if you're going out there and you're leading with your playfulness and your desire to experience emotional attraction, that's how men will respond to you. So never forget it. All men secretly love to commit. If you want to go deeper on that truth, watch my husband's video. I'll leave the link below. Okay, brutal truth number 4. Emotional attraction makes a man more resourceful than money. That's right. Emotional attraction makes him more resourceful in the relationship with you than money does. See, a lot of us women, we're looking for a provider. We're looking for a man who can bring money and stability into the relationship. But what I have learned through my many years of coaching women and from my almost 20 years of being with my husband and going through periods where we had excess money versus periods where we had no money and total homelessness is one simple thing, and that is that money alone is not enough for a man to provide for you. This is why I've said a number of times over the years, if you want a good life, find a man who can provide. If you want an infinite life, find a man who is attuned to you. Now, a guy is never going to be attuned to you unless he's emotionally attracted to you. It is that emotional attraction that causes him to zoom in and to see through to your soul and to feel what you feel. Without that emotional attraction, he'll never attune to you. And without that attunement, he'll never truly provide. This is why you have so many dissatisfied married women in relationships with men who are always at work, who are always looking to bring in the money. And the man thinks his only worth is in providing that money because maybe that's all he's been told. Maybe that's all he's learned to believe over the years is that women need money. But if you and I were honest with each other, we know deep down inside, money is not enough. Especially if you're raising children. And I know that sounds so crazy because once you have children, you've got dependents. And these dependents need money to survive. They need their mouths fed. They need to be educated, right? I've got 3 boys. And if there's one thing I've learned after raising 3 boys completely alone with my husband, without family help, without babysitters, daycare, even school, it's that what really raises your kids is the quality of the connection between you and your husband. And the quality of that connection is exponential when you have real emotional attraction. That is the real glue that binds you together. And when you're binded together with that glue, you have way more emotional resources to raise and educate your kids. So if you've always assumed that what makes a man resourceful in a relationship, or if you've assumed that what makes a man high value in a relationship is his ability to bring money and a great job to the table, then you might want to think again. We all know you can lose a job, right? This is not me being negative. This is me being honest and truthful. We are living in very difficult economic times in the West, and this is more true now than ever. If a man has a great job, that doesn't necessarily mean he's resourceful. We all know life brings unexpected stresses, especially if you've raised kids, because that's a very vulnerable and stressful time. We all know that life brings you stresses. What are you going to do then? What if he loses his job? What if after he loses his job, he's down in the dumps and he's depressed and he can't come out of it? The only thing that's going to bring him out of that is that feeling of emotional attraction. And no, that's not just emotional attraction towards you. That's mutual emotional attraction. That's the real key. That's the real resource. So if you want real value in a relationship with a man, focus on emotional attraction. See, a man who was never truly emotionally attracted to you, but was with you out of convenience, even married to you, out of convenience, may never pull himself out of a funk, out of that deep depression that a lot of men get into after losing a job. And I can tell you, after being homeless at the start of my relationship with my husband, that the one thing that made him draw emotional resources to make money, to make something work out of thin air, out of literally nothing, was that relationship that we had together, was the emotional attraction that we had together. So yes, money's great. Money buys you options. Money can buy you freedom. Money can be the literal ticket out of a bad place during wars and during horrible periods in your life. However, it will never be the thing that makes a man emotionally, physically, psychologically, and mentally resourceful when things are hardest. That added attunement that emotional attraction inspires in a man will help him keep moving things forward, even when the whole world is trying to hold him down, even when he feels like he's lying on the floor and there's nothing left to give. Don't assume that a rich man who wants you is ultimate value. A man who is emotionally attracted to you is worth far more long term. Okay, brutal truth number 5. This is the hardest for me to deliver, and it may also be the hardest for you to digest. But nonetheless, it's extremely important. In fact, I would argue if you're single, this is the most crucial truth to digest, understand, and appreciate. So what is brutal truth number 5? It is, if you present with low value traits, even the nicest men in the world will take advantage of you. If you show up low value in life, even the nicest people, not just men, will take advantage of you. Why? Because you're not adding value to life, you're taking value to life. And that act of trying to constantly take value makes you 1,000 times more vulnerable to being taken advantage of. And high value men, even nice men, won't just take advantage of you. They'll use you and then they won't even have any shame about it. They'll push you away. And when you think about it, this is actually in a high value man's best interest, because if he pushes away the low value women, that leaves more of his resources available for the one and only woman, the right woman in his life, the one that he deems worthy of emotionally investing in. What are some of these low value traits? Well, one big one when you're dating a guy is leading with your desire to take commitment from a guy. Now, if I was talking to men, I would talk about sending dick pics, leading with their desire for sex, right? Have a feel in your body right now how bad it feels when a guy leads with his desire for sex, when he leads with the desire to just take sex from you. How does that make you feel? Make the sound out loud of how that makes you feel. Well, that's how it works for men when we lead with our desire to take commitment from him. So for example, you write in your dating profile, I'm only looking for something serious, no time wasters. I don't want a man who doesn't want to commit to me. Things like that, that's a very low value trait. It's completely counterintuitive for us women because commitment is what we need, but it's not counterintuitive for men. For men, it's a low value trait. Now, there are actually 7 common signs a woman is low value in the eyes of men. I've made a free report on it. If you want that report, the link will be below. One good way I like to think about this brutal truth is like this. The more we need to take from life, the more life refuses to give it to us. Think about that for a second. It's kind of like this. If someone's really needy towards you, really needing something, keeps asking for the same thing over and over, do you feel more inclined to give what that person wants to them or less inclined? Less inclined, right? That's just how it works. So do yourself a favor. Don't present with low value traits. And the number one way to start doing that is to stop leading with what you want to take from the world and what you want to take from men. Instead, lead with value. David, my husband, and I have been saying this for 15 years. Lead with value. If you're wondering what you can do instead of leading with what you can take, it's try being playful. Lead with playfulness. Develop that skill. Once you get momentum going with these playful banter texts from my husband's class, you'll start to understand what it feels like to play. And once you understand what it feels like to play, it becomes more natural to you. It becomes a part of your personality. And then it becomes a million times easier to inspire emotional attraction in men. So just because I love my subscribers, I wanted to include a bonus truth. Bonus truth number 6 is that men are never truly satisfied with a one-dimensional woman. You need to be multi-dimensional. Now, what does that mean? That means that you have many parts to you, many layers to you, so that you have value to give in all different contexts inside of a relationship with a man. And when you have multiple parts to you, when you're multi-dimensional, you can inspire men to be multi-dimensional as well. You actually get to inspire men to become parts of himself he never knew existed before, or parts of himself that maybe he's been pushing down for decades. So what does it look like to be multi-dimensional? Well, to give you an example, on one side, you might have the bubbly princess part to your personality, and that's the part of yourself that you might bring out during social situations. And then you also have a devilish mistress that you bring out behind closed doors. Now, how are these two different? Well, with the mistress, a man gets to access the dark masculine side of him because he's inspired to do so through your dark feminine, whilst the bubbly princess is more of a light feminine. It's more something that brings value to him when you go out and make friends. When you're in social situations with his friends, family, or even with your friends, it's value to him and to yourself, to be honest, and to your friends. If you can be bubbly because you bring joy to the table, right? See, what a lot of people think is that because they're an introvert, they could never be that bubbly princess. It just takes too much energy. But you don't have to think about it that way. Think about it this way. Think about it as if you're bringing value not only to your man, but to yourself and to your friends in social situations. You are bringing energy to the table. You are making people feel happier just by existing. Does that mean you have to be the bubbly princess all the time? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that you can access that part of you if you wish to and whenever you wish to. So having all these different parts to you allows you to bring more value to the table. Because what a lot of people do is they're one-dimensional. They think, oh, I'm a quiet type of person, or I'm the extroverted type of person. I need to party all the time. But you don't have to be. You can be both whenever you wish to be. Now, don't take this to mean I'm pressuring you to be someone you're not. Just take it as if I'm planting a small seed. If you really want to bring value to people in your life, you can be more than just one type of person. And what this allows you to do is not only bring value, but bring out the best in others. So this concept of being multidimensional is really understanding that there are many different contexts in life. And if your goal is to bring value and to be high value, then you can't just bring the same type of person to every single context. That wouldn't make sense, right? So have a play around with this idea. Have a think about it and really think about which parts of you bring the most value in different contexts. Also, one thing you can do is take my "Which is your feminine archetype" quiz. I'll leave a pinned comment to that quiz below. And by doing this quiz, you'll find out which is your main feminine archetype. But also we go through all the feminine archetypes in that, and you can try to see if you can identify and connect with each of those feminine archetypes, even if you haven't in the past. Because all the feminine archetypes do have value, even if you don't live in them all the time. Okay, so go ahead and take my feminine archetypes quiz below and find out which is your core archetype that you're living in day to day. But regardless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Wait, before you go, imagine 3 magical words so powerful that it got my coaching client's boyfriend to propose to her within 7 days. Yup, it's all in this book. Click the link on the screen to learn more.